so we could see the audience. That would be awesome.
Thank you so much for coming and staying. Anybody has any questions, I'll try and do my best to answer them. Well, that was great. Thank you so much. The big name actors. Well, yeah, some of the people I had worked with before, and some people were just friends. Some of the actors in the movie. The shoot for this movie was so short that a lot of those people were only coming in for a day or two. So, because most of them were getting to do stuff that they don't usually get to do, they were happy to do it. You know. So people, for example, Josh Brolin, I didn't know, and he was friends with Marley, who's the actress who plays Cora, the flight attendant. They had done Drawing House together. So initially it was going to be another actor who was going to do that, and she called him, and he read it, liked it, and then he came and did it, and he was great. You know, so find that if you can get material to the actors, actors do want to act. The problem is getting to them. You know. Anybody else? Well, yes.
I was just wondering if any of the stories that of the woman were inspired by novelas in Venezuela at all?
Well, I mean, I am Venezuelan, so, you know, it is, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, it's interesting, even in the program here, the description of the movie where they say it's this campy take on B movies from the 70s or something like that. It's not exactly accurate, you know, but I think it's better if people think it's going to be that and then discover that there is real emotion in the movie. I think coming from Venezuela, but it's not only Venezuela, you see this in Mexico or Spain or even a movie like Slumdog Millionaire. I think there's different cultures where the culture is so heightened, you know, which is something that isn't necessarily American or British, where it is much more over the top and it's not subtle, you know, but it doesn't mean that it is campy or that it's not real, you know, and it's sort of a tricky tone to try and explain. So I love telenovelas, because I love how absurd they are, and of course it's sort of like the cheapening, the most sentimental way of telling a melodrama, but I do like that combination of humor and real tragedy, you know, so hopefully here where the movie's working is like it starts off as this really funny thing, but eventually you get to see the real emotions that people have. So I take it very seriously, even though of course it is a comedy, you know, but I find that it works best when the stakes are really life or death for these characters. So there's, I don't know if that answers your question, but there is definitely I watched telenovelas when I was a kid. The truth is, I was not allowed to watch telenovelas. Does everybody know what telenovelas are? Telenovelas in South America are soap operas, but contrary to American soap operas, which go on for 30 years, they are the highest rated shows on TV, so they actually only have like 60 episodes, and they play on prime time. And literally, when they're successful, nobody's out in the street. It's like the Lakers game or the Red Wings or something. There's nobody out in the street. Everybody's watching these shows, right? And as a, you know, I grew up in a household of women, and my mom absolutely did not permit us to watch soap operas because this was considered very tacky and low class, and we should be reading Shakespeare or something. But she did let us watch the episode 59, let's say, of each soap opera, which is the episode right before the final episode. In the final episode, everybody gets killed or gets married. So the episode before, they have to solve all the plot strands, which of course they were making up as they went along, so they make no sense. So the whole episode is really people walking in the doors going, oh, I'm your twin. You know, and it's amazing. And we would sit there with popcorn, and you can put together the whole show based on that episode. So I watched that episode. Maybe that episode influences this. Anybody else? Yes.
Charlotte is related to you?
Charlotte is my daughter. Yes. Which was pretty funny because as a parent, you know, living in LA, you know. Your child can say, I want to be president, I want to be a space alien. You go, great, you do that. You know, but they tell you want to be an actor, you're like, no, not going to happen. So about 4 years ago, she came to me, she said, Dad, she sat me down, she said, we want to be actors, I want to get an agent, I want to go audition. I said, not going to happen, you know, it's just not going to happen. And so she being a girl and a woman, therefore being really smart, she said, okay, but if there is a role that you write, you know, that has a teenager in it, can I be considered for it? So I said, sure. So when this came up, I really had no excuse but to put her in it, and she ended up being very good, very natural in it, and didn't, you know, embarrass the family. So, yes. She is. Yes.
I really appreciated the visual collage of your interesting characters in the game, and how it sort of depicted the story. Where in your creative process did you decide to use that? Was it at the beginning? Was it part of when you were
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, I saw this movie, I don't know if you know, there's this 1960s Czechoslovakian movie called Daisies. Do you know this movie? And it's directed by a woman named Vera or something like that, you know, who never got out of the Czech Republic, you know, like Milos Forman and her were the sort of like two big filmmakers. Milos Forman got out, she didn't, and she made these movies that were really, they're considered these sort of feminist statements, and this movie Daisies, I really recommend it. Nothing actually happens in the movie, so it's a very product of its time, 1960s movie, but it's about these two young women who are basically sitting there going, the world is messed up, so we're going to mess with it. And nothing happens in the movie, but there's a series of collages and images and music that is really, that was really inspiring. I was like, oh yeah, you can do anything you want in a movie. So the budget of this movie was literally nothing, like $5. So it became very clear very soon into it that I wasn't going to have money to do exterior shots or any transition things, you know, and what I really had were characters that are mostly situations where it's groupings of 2 or 3 people stuck in one room, in an airplane or a hospital or an elevator, you know. And so this collage idea came from that, which was, I thought, well, if I can't show it that way, what if we had a way of getting inside the, you know, the characters' minds, and or sometimes using it as a transition, for example, those shots of the airplane. And it's literally just pictures from the internet, you know, that I cleared the rights of and made a little collage in Photoshop. So it could not have been more homemade, but it really worked for that, you know. So early on, that was decided. Yes?
Have you made any other movies?
Have I made any other movies? Yes, I've made a couple movies before as a director. I made a movie a while back called Judas Kiss with Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman. And I made a movie a couple years ago that was sort of, this movie is a direct result of that. I made a movie called Rise with Lucy Liu and Michael Chiklis that was supposed to be a cool vampire thriller, but it was one of those Hollywood typical stories where they take the movie away from the director and they re-edit it, and the actors and the director on one side fighting with the producer, blah, 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 blah. And it was 2 years of my life, and at the end of the day, the movie isn't terrible, like you saw it on video, but it's like, neither here nor there, which is a very prevalent Hollywood situation. So this movie came directly from that, of saying, like, well, you know, screw that, we can write our own little movie and get some people and do it for no money and just tell a story about human beings and not special effects. So yes, I have done movies before, and then this movie has now become part of a trilogy, and we have done the second one, which is called Electra Lux, which is the Carla Gugino character, which we just finished, and I'm just about to finish post on it. So that'll come out next year, and it picks up about a month later from this story, and it mostly follows her character, about half the characters from the first one. But for example, that character at the end, the Joe Gordon-Levitt character, this blogger becomes a much bigger part of this thing. And you know, and that all came from, we had so much fun making this movie that we thought, you know what, between real jobs, once a year, let's make one of these. And so that's what we did.
Where will it be shown?
When will it be shown? You know, I would love to bring it back here next year. I think it'll be done before that, so I don't really know yet, because it'll be finished in about a month. So we'll start the festival circuit with that next January, probably, like Sundance or something like that. But you know, I would love to be able to come here and show them both back to back or something. You know. One more question. The movie was made in LA. About half of it was shot in my house, just actually moving things around and changing. Like if you notice, a lot of it's like George Lucas makes the Star Wars movies and he builds sets that are only like 6 feet tall and then the rest is CGI. But we didn't have CGI, so a lot of scenes you see like the therapist is sitting and you never see above here because there is no rest of the set. It's literally like a 6-foot wall. And it took very short. We made that movie in 12 days. And the reason we were able to do that was because the movie was designed as, the origin of this movie was, I had this scene that I read a long time ago that I found that didn't fit into any script, that was the scene between these 2 women in front of a mirror that ends up being the scene with the 2 tall girls. And I found the scene, and I thought, it's a pretty good scene, and it's about 10 pages long, which is, you know, rule of thumb, that's about a minute a page, so it's about 10 minutes long, and I thought, I could probably get a couple of cameras and shoot this in one day and have a cool little short film. And then I thought to myself, I could write 9 more and have a whole movie in 10 days, you know, which is a really stupid idea. I don't recommend anyone do that, but that's pretty much what we did. So all the segments were designed to be 2 women stuck in an elevator for 10 pages, so that was shot in one day. So it was rehearsed sort of like a play, and that, to answer the first question, was also a way of being able to get higher profile people, because I was literally asking them to come in. Josh Brolin came in for one day. We shot that airplane, we rehearsed it, shot a whole airplane thing in one day. So it ended up being 10 days because we had some exteriors, it ended up being 12, but that's how long it took. This is